You're watching BloombergQuint. The big story today that we are tracking is a story which involves a company promoted by one of the most influential business houses, the Ruya family. Essar Steel is the company in question. High debt, a company which will now head to bankruptcy court. That's the news that Vishwanath Nair, our senior banking reporter, actually our only banking reporter, broke here on BloombergQuint. Vishwanath and I are going to talk about this news and also its implications because it is an important one. Vishwanath, first the news. What have you picked up from your bankers?
From our banking sources, we understand that the bankers to Essar Steel, there are about 19 of them in that consortium of lenders. They met today in Bombay and they've decided to take this case to the NCLT for insolvency proceedings. Now, this meeting, of course, is more of just a stock-taking exercise. The directive from the RBI is very clear that these 12 accounts that they have identified have to go to the NCLT. And now, after this meeting, this Essar Steel is now one of the few cases which is going through.
Okay, so just to step back a little bit, what the RBI did was that they identified 12 accounts. Your sources, and this is information available on BloombergQuint.com, has said that there are 12 companies. Part of that is Essar Steel, which has now been referred to the bankruptcy court. Today, bankers have said that we are going to admit it in the National Company Law Tribunal.
That's right.
The reason for that is in this chart.
That's right. So as you can see, between FY15 and FY16, that's the year before last, the debt has risen to about 43,000 crore. This, according to what banking sources have told us, has risen further. Currently, it's about between 44 and 45. So, which is why you could understand that the amount of debt in this case is significant.
Very large. And for a while, we've been trying to, or bankers have been trying to find a resolution.
That's right.
The process dates back to 2015.
2015. So November 2015 is when the bankers got together and decided that maybe bringing in a new financial investor made sense, and the promoters of the company were on board with that idea. So which is why they appointed SBI Capital as well as ICICI Securities to find this investor. However, that search has still been going on. There's been nobody who's come on the table for a definite investment in the company. Post that, there have been multiple restructuring proposals. The most recent restructuring proposal, we talked about it in a story yesterday.
Yes.
About Farallon Capital.
Yes, let's talk through that, and let's just first give you a little bit of background.
That's right.
This was a three-part restructuring proposal that had been proposed.
Yes. So the bankers were informed by the company, or at least that is how we understand it from our sources, that a three-step process. The first being conversion of a portion of the debt of this 44,000 crore worth of debt, portion of that being converted into equity, which will represent about 36% stake in the company. The remaining debt of the company will be restructured in some form, either by reducing interest rates or increasing the repayment period. And the third portion was the infusion of equity from this American investor called Farallon Capital. However, yesterday's story we found out, and Farallon Capital has confirmed this on record, saying that they are not interested in investing in Essar Steel. Neither have they been part of this discussion for months. However, bankers were a little confused because they were under the impression that this was happening and that equity was coming into the company.
So essentially, we're back to square one. There will be some sort of a new restructuring plan which will emerge, which will then be taken up by the creditors committee that gets set up under.
So this morning, in fact, the promoters and the management of the company has met the bankers. That is what our banking sources are telling us. And this meeting focused on a possible resolution plan. So they're going in with a plan so that when the committee of creditors is created under the NCLT, they have a fairly easy job to do, is just review the plan and then approve it, and then it goes to the NCLT rather than waiting the whole 270-day period that is prescribed under the IBC.
Okay, so Essar Steel, important not just because it's one of the largest accounts that banks have been grappling with in terms of stress, but also important, Vishwanath, because it's such a influential business house.
Exactly.
I think till a few years back, it would have been almost unthinkable that a company from a business group like this would actually head to bankruptcy court, that lenders would be able to take it to bankruptcy court. So significant in that.
Honestly, that's the kind of sense we get from all the companies that are a part of the 12. As you can see here, there's the list of the 12 companies. Most of the companies here are from influential business houses.
Absolutely.
And therefore it was unthinkable a few years ago, as you said rightly, that these would go into insolvency, and there is a risk of liquidation, which is a part of the whole insolvency process. So companies like, for example, today Essar Steel and Bhushan Steel have both been approved for proceedings under the NCLT. That's what we
Bhushan
understand.
Steel has also been approved for
Yes,
insolvency.
the meeting today, there were 3 large steel companies where bankers met. So Essar and Bhushan have already happened. Some of the others, we are still waiting to hear what exactly has happened. Bhushan Power and Steel, company like JP Infratech and Lanco Infratech have all already been approved for NCLT proceedings. So the bankers have signed a document saying that we are going to the NCLT for an insolvency.
Okay. And essentially in all these 12 cases, unless there's some last minute deal which is really acceptable to all, do they have to? They have to essentially.
They have to. So the RBI direction is clear that these 12 companies have to go to the court. What happens after that? Maybe they have a plan already in place, because having a resolution plan is part of the whole process. So if they have a plan already in place, then it makes things easier for the committee of creditors to go ahead and implement that and turn the case around.
Okay, so that's the big story. Essar Steel is heading into the bankruptcy court. From there on, what happens, we'll all keep tracking it. Just before we end, Vishwanath, I mean, you know, there's a lot on BloombergQuint.com on how this process moves forward. But one part of that process is the overseeing committee, which is going to oversee how these insolvency processes are actually executed.
Right.
That is now in place.
So the whole NCLT program and these 12 cases were shortlisted by the IAC, the Independent Advisory Committee, which is largely built up of RBI's independent board members. The RBI hasn't clarified who these board members are, so we don't know who selected them, but these 12 cases have been selected. The OC, or the Oversight Committee, is in place not just for these cases, but also for all other stressed cases wherever resolution might be being implemented, and whatever plan that the bankers come up with. Remember, the OC originally was only for S4A.
S4A, for the benefit of viewers, is one particular stress resolution scheme.
Yes, it's one of the latest schemes that the RBI came up with, and currently the OC's gamut of operations has been increased, and therefore they will be looking at more cases. Which is why today the RBI announced that they have inducted 3 new members as part of the OC. So currently, earlier we had only 2 members. Now it's about 5.
So all parts of this stressed asset puzzle are starting to come closer together. We can't say that they've come in place. We are nowhere close to a resolution to this issue. But the big story for today, if you want to track and read more on it, do go on to BloombergQuint.com.
Thank you.